Have you ever stood before a door, knowing deep down that it should never be opened? There's something about basements dark, silent, and suffocating that awakens a primal fear within us. They seem to hold their breath, hiding secrets best left undiscovered. But what would you do if that door called to you, pulling you toward the unknown? Would you open it, knowing you might unleash something you can never escape? This is the story of one such door. A basement that whispers in the night, guarding secrets of rituals long forgotten and shadows that twist in the darkness. A warning: once you step inside, you may never truly leave. What is it about basements that stirs such primal fear in us? Is it the absence of light, the suffocating silence, or the feeling that something might be lurking just beyond the edges of your sight? For me, basements have always been more than just rooms beneath a house. They feel alive, as if they hold their breath, waiting for someone to step into their domain. I'll never forget the night I dared to enter the basement at my friend Karan's house. Karan's family home was a sprawling, ancient structure on the outskirts of town, its weathered facade hinting at countless secrets hidden within. The house seemed to groan under its own weight, every creak of the floorboards and rattle of the windows adding to its eerie atmosphere. But none of that compared to the basement door. The door was unlike anything else in the house. It was old and heavy, its surface scarred with deep scratches, as if something had tried to claw its way out. A rusty latch held it shut, and at its center was a grimy, warped glass window that barely let any light through. It seemed to beckon and warn at the same time. "What's in there?" I asked once, unable to hide my curiosity. Karan's face darkened. He glanced over his shoulder before replying in a low voice. "Nothing you want to know about? Just don't ask." The way he said it chilled me. Over the next few visits, I noticed how the entire family avoided the door. No one even looked at it, let alone touched it. At night, the kitchen, where the door was located, became a no-go zone. But what unnerved me most were the sounds. Late at night, when the house was quiet, I'd hear faint noises coming from the basement. Soft scratching like nails on wood. A low, rhythmic thumping that seemed to echo through the walls. Once I even thought I heard whispering, though it was too faint to make out any words. One evening, as we sat in the living room, I couldn't keep my curiosity in check any longer. "What's the deal with that basement?" I asked. Karan hesitated, his eyes darting toward the kitchen. "The house has history," he said finally. "It was built in the late 1800s by a couple named the Rathors. They were strange, kept to themselves, never interacted with anyone in town. People said they were obsessed with the occult." "What happened to them?" I asked. "They disappeared," Karan replied. "No one knows how or why. One day they were just gone." The house was sold, but every family that's lived here since has had the same experience: strange noises, shadows moving where there shouldn't be any. And he trailed off, his face pale. "And what?" "They say the basement is cursed, that whatever the Rathors were doing down there, they opened something that never left." That was all I needed to hear. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I found myself standing in the kitchen, staring at the basement door. The air felt colder here, heavier, as if the house itself was warning me to turn back. But I couldn't. My curiosity outweighed my fear. With a deep breath, I unlatched the door. The stairs creaked loudly as I descended, the sound echoing in the oppressive silence. The air grew colder with every step, carrying the faint smell of damp earth and something metallic. My flashlight flickered, casting long, shifting shadows on the stone walls. At the bottom, the room opened into a large, dimly lit space. The floor was uneven dirt, and the walls were lined with shelves holding forgotten relics, rusty tools, broken jars, and melted candle stubs. In the center of the room stood a small, worn table. On it was an old, leather-bound book, its cover cracked with age. Behind the table, carved into the wall, was a symbol intricate and otherworldly, made up of interlocking circles and jagged lines. The sight of it made my skin crawl. I hesitated, but my curiosity won out. I picked up the book and opened it. The pages were filled with strange, illegible text, but the illustrations were unmistakable rituals, sacrifices, and summoning. My breath caught as I realized what I was holding. Then, the air shifted. It was subtle at first, like the room exhaling. But it grew heavier, colder, and the faint sound of whispers began to fill the space. My flashlight flickered, and in that brief moment of darkness, I saw movement. A shadow, darker than the surrounding blackness, glided across the room. It didn't walk, it floated, twisting and curling unnaturally. My heart pounded as I backed away, my flashlight shaking in my hand. The whispers grew louder, more distinct. They weren't in any language I could understand, but they filled my mind, drowning out all other thoughts. And then it stopped. The shadow froze, and for a moment the room was deathly silent. Then, in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, it spoke. "You shouldn't be here." The words reverberated through me, sending a cold wave of terror down my spine. My legs felt like lead, but I forced myself to move, stumbling backward toward the stairs. The shadow didn't follow, but its presence filled the room, suffocating and oppressive. I climbed the stairs as fast as I could, tripping and scraping my hands on the rough wood. The moment I reached the top, the door slammed shut behind me with a deafening bang. The house was silent, but the feeling of being watched didn't leave me. I locked myself in the guest room, the whispers still echoing in my ears. I left the next morning, making an excuse about needing to get home early. Karan didn't ask why. I think he already knew. To this day, I can still hear that voice in my mind when I'm alone. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I wake up with the feeling that I'm being watched. And I wonder if I truly left the basement behind or if a part of it followed me out. If you've ever stood at the edge of the unknown and felt it staring back at you, you'll understand why some doors are better left unopened. Share your own stories if you dare, and remember, some places are meant to stay in the dark.